And back again. This time we're looking at the judicial branch. Now, this is Article 3 of the Constitution. So with the judicial branch, what we're looking at here is the federal court system. And the structure of the federal court system works this way. We have what is called the U.S. District Court. And they have what is called original jurisdiction, which means that they hear cases for the first time. These are violations of federal law, or something dealing with the Constitution, or disputes between two states, or a dispute between a citizen of this country and a foreign government. Once you go to district court, you have a jury, you have a federal judge, and that federal judge and all federal judges in the federal court system serve for life. And they're appointed by the president and approved by specifically the Senate in Congress. And when you go to district court, if you don't like the outcome, you can appeal your case to the next level, which is U.S. Courts of Appeal. The U.S. Courts of Appeal have what is called appellate jurisdiction. Appellate jurisdiction is when you do not like the outcome of your case and you are requesting the next level to hear your case. So they're going to review your case only for two reasons: to see if your constitutional rights are violated and to see if you received a fair trial. And if the U.S. Courts of Appeal agrees that your rights were violated or you did not receive a fair trial, your case is overturned. Then the district court has to decide whether or not to retry you for that particular charge. If the U.S. Courts of Appeal does not agree with you, you can then appeal it to the next level, which is the last level. It's called the U.S. Supreme Court. There are 9 justices. The 9 justices will decide the fate of your case, once again only looking at were your rights violated or did you receive a fair trial. As far as the U.S. Supreme Court is concerned, there's a specific process that you go through to have your case heard. You have to first file what is called a writ of certiorari, which basically is asking for all the records from the Court of Appeals, from the district court, to be sent to the Supreme Court for them to review. If 4 out of the 9 justices agree to hear your case, which is called the Rule of 4, your case is put on the court's docket, which is the court's calendar. Then you have your day of trial. These 9 men and women who are appointed to office, who serve for life, are going to review your case. You're going to provide what is called written arguments through your lawyer. The lawyer is then going to send those written arguments to the Supreme Court. You're going to have 2 sets of written arguments. One from the petitioner side, which is the one who is petitioning the case to be heard by the Supreme Court, and then one from the respondent side, the one who is going to argue why this case should not be heard or why this case should not be won by the petitioner. Once the written arguments are submitted, we then move on to the next phase, which is called the oral argument phase. This is when you're going to go to the U.S. Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C. You're going to have a very brief period of time in which to present your case. And obviously, you're not going to be the one presenting it. It's going to be done by lawyers. Once the oral arguments are over, they then go what is called to conference. Typically, conferences happen on Fridays. And the Supreme Court is going to meet sometime starting in October and finish up roughly in May. So every Friday, they're going to basically, at that week, the cases that they heard are going to be discussed in private by those 9 justices on Friday. Then they're going to write an opinion. And you're going to have 3 types of opinions. You're going to have what is called the majority opinion, which is the official decision of the court. You're going to have what is called dissenting opinion, which is the ones who disagreed with the majority, why they disagreed. And then sometimes you'll have what is called a concurrent opinion. A concurrent opinion is when you agree with the majority as a member of the Supreme Court, but for a different constitutional reason. Once the Supreme Court issues the ruling, the decision, it is now official. So, it seems like the Supreme Court has a lot of authority, but remember that they are appointed to that position, appointed by a president who has political motivation. Right now, the Supreme Court is made up of roughly 5 conservative Supreme Court justices and 4 liberal justices. And for the most part, you're going to expect that the decisions made by the court are going to be conservative decisions. Decisions that are going to stick with the traditional values of the Constitution. It's not always the case. such as the example of the case of the same-sex marriage debate. It was a 5-4 decision. This was the case of Obergefell versus Hodges, where one justice was a swing vote, and that was Justice Kennedy. Kennedy, who is a conservative Supreme Court justice who tends to be more in the middle, though he's more moderate with his decisions, swung his vote over to the liberal side so that the case then decided that same-sex couples could legally get married in this country. So political motivation does play a role in the Supreme Court's decision. If the president doesn't like the decision, he can simply drag his feet in executing the court's order. Or Congress can rewrite a law that was deemed unconstitutional because of the Supreme Court's decision to change what was wrong with that decision or what was wrong with that law. So then we could have Congress basically creating a new law that deals with the issue even though the Supreme Court has already made the decision. So, do we need to know exactly who is sitting on the Supreme Court? No. Certainly that is something that's beyond what we need to know for this review. But what you do need to know is that when it comes to the Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court, there are no juries. Their job is to make the decision without the benefit of a jury. The only time you have a jury trial in the federal court system is in the district court. There are other people that help the judges in doing their job. You have, of course, the magistrates. Their job, a federal magistrate, is going to be to issue search warrants, arrest warrants, bail hearings. You have the U.S. attorneys. Their job is to represent the United States government in a federal court case. Then you have the U.S. Marshals. The U.S. Marshals, their job is to transport prisoners, to arrest people who are accused of breaking federal law, and also working on airplanes against terrorism. Their job is to sit on airplanes to prevent maybe another 9/11 from happening in this country. Basically, as far as cases that you might need to know, I gave you guys, it's been some time ago, I gave you guys a list of cases. Certainly go back and look at those cases. But Marbury versus Madison, very important case. It established judicial review. Judicial review is the power of the court to review any law passed by the federal government, Congress, or any state legislature, such as the North Carolina General Assembly. Other cases that are really important, McCulloch versus Maryland. This basically said that in this case, the state could not tax the national bank. It legitimized the necessary and proper clause. Brown versus Board of Education, desegregated public schools. Roe versus Wade extended the right to privacy for women when choosing to have an abortion. You have Engel versus Natal, which limits people being able to pray in school. We cannot have school-sponsored prayer. Gideon versus Wainwright, which basically ensures that you have Sixth Amendment rights, right to a lawyer. Miranda versus Arizona, you have a right to no self-incrimination and also a right to have an attorney present during questioning if you're a suspect. You have other cases such as Gibbons versus Ogden, which is a case dealing with interstate commerce, and does Congress have a right to regulate interstate commerce? The Constitution says they do. The Supreme Court agreed. You also had Texas versus Johnson, which extended your right to freedom of speech and burning an American flag in protest. You have Tinker versus Des Moines, which basically gives you the right to protest without actually saying a word. So that's an extension of what is called symbolic speech. Matt versus Ohio, which allows you to be protected from illegal searches and seizures. There are countless cases out there. Just go back and look over the list that I gave you that will help you to study for those cases. Honestly, you're not going to see many Supreme Court cases on the final exam. If I had to guess, I would say Marbury versus Madison, Brown versus Board of Education, maybe Miranda versus Arizona, maybe Roe versus Wade, maybe Gideon versus Wainwright. You possibly could see those cases. maybe Tinker versus Des Moines, maybe Texas versus Johnson, but you're not going to see a lot of cases on there. So just make sure that you know the types of jurisdiction, the structure of the federal court system, the fact that they serve for life, and the purpose of the Supreme Court and the courts of appeal, which is to basically protect your constitutional rights, and also make sure that you receive a fair trial. And that the Supreme Court, when they make a decision, is final. There's nowhere else to go. And they make decisions that benefit people's rights in this country and ensure that the federal government is not infringing upon those rights. And understand that there are 9 justices. There's a specific process that you go through in the Supreme Court, and the fact that there are different types of opinions, such as majority, dissenting, and concurrent opinions. As far as the judicial branch is concerned, that's really all you need to know right now. There's another unit that will be coming up that will talk about the actual laws in this country, and we'll get into that a little bit more specifically later. So for right now, that's all for Unit 6. The next thing we're going to talk about is the North Carolina Judicial Branch, and then the next thing after that, we'll mention a little bit about civil rights and civil liberties. Until then, see you later.